You hear me okay?
Yes, can you hear me?
Yeah. My work laptop is been restarting for like 20 minutes. I'm gonna forward you a couple site plans unless you want to give me share access too.
Okay.
Uh,
Um,
I'll forward them to you. It should be pretty. I think if I can, we'll see. Um, Actually, I can.
can you see my screen okay?
Yeah,
Okay.
that's the correct packet. I'm gonna forward you an email. Um, I don't know what the work computer is doing. Okay, Michelle, I just forwarded you an email. It's got the site plans in it. Don't worry about that packet because you have the right one up. There's three other site plans. The first one will be that 329. Second one will be 1561, and then the other one will be 235. You'll see them. They're labeled pretty easily. Where it says undeliverable. Why?
Jeremiah, I can make you a co-host and then you can share from your screen if you need to. I just
Maybe.
don't want to allow any other screen sharing.
It might be. Okay, my other computer is finally doing something, but if I can't forward this to my MacBook, I still can't see it either. I don't know what this work laptop's doing. It restarted.
Don, can you hear me?
You can hear you, Gordon.
Okay. Thank you. Dr. Love, what do you have in your arms?
This is Mr. Callum, who is 1 week today.
Oh my goodness.
Congratulations again.
Thank you.
Understand you had a difficult patient this afternoon. Said you had to hold her down.
I got the straps out.
Good for you. That's what she needs.
Good evening.
Good evening.
Okay, Michelle, I just sent them. See if they came through.
There's bonus points for the first person that can identify my virtual background.
I don't see them yet, Jeremy.
Give it a sec.
With the Oval Office, are you in the Oval
No.
Office?
No.
You're real small on my computer. I can't.
that the West Wing?
No, not the West Wing.
Okay, Jeremy, I got him.
If you
That-
get my bonus background, I'll give you $100 if you figure out what mine is.
No, and I'm not going to give anybody $100 mine. Actually, it should be easy. It's the desk from Parks and Rec. The office.
Oh, well, see,
The office.
I never really watched it.
Yeah,
Oddly enough.
neither did I, to be honest with you. But I do know that it is the office from Parks and Rec.
LaCroix, it's not a beer. Disappears into the back.
Folks, according to my clock, it's 7 o'clock. I believe that all the planning commissioners that we were expecting are present. So we will call to order the June 2nd regular meeting of the Adrian City Planning Commission. Maybe just a comment relative to a Zoom meeting. Folks, I think most people should maintain muted microphones unless they're one of the commissioners and wish to speak, or if a member of the audience and they've been recognized and wishes to speak, then unmute yourself. Otherwise, we end up with lots of background noise. Thank you for your understanding there. First item on our agenda for this evening is consideration of the May minutes. Commissioners, you have copies of those minutes. I presume you've had an opportunity to review them. Are there any additions or corrections to the May minutes? Remember, if you want to say something, you have to unmute yourself. I would suggest that on the last page, page 5, where we authority to set public hearings, this was the May meeting, and according to the minutes, we set those for the April meeting. So that should be corrected on page 5 where it says April 7th. It should say June 2nd. Are there any other additions or corrections?
Mr. Chairman,
Sir.
on page 4, about the middle of the page, it looks like there's some things missing from case 2011. We just go into there being no further discussion, blah, blah, blah. We move to approve. There's no heading or anything of that sort.
Ah, good point. I glanced at that and presumed it was all part of 2018.
Well, I did too at first, but then
Yeah.
the numbers didn't match up. So
Okay,
So that one should say, the second part should say site plan instead of zoning exception.
is that a question or a statement, Jeremy?
Statement, it should say site plan instead of zoning exception application.
It should also have a title, like case 2020,
yeah, there's nothing.
hearing to hear and consider a zoning, or
Oh, I see. Okay, yep, I see.
we're missing a whole, like the heading paragraph, we're missing.
Heading paragraph, right.
I see.
Okay, so noted. Any other additions or corrections to the May minutes? If there are none, all those in favor of approval of the May minutes, please unmute yourself and say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Am I correct in assuming that it was a unanimous vote? Okay. Next item on our agenda is case number 20020, a zoning exception permit and a site plan applications for 329 Logan Street for a marijuana growing and processing facility. Is there someone in the audience to address this particular matter? Is there a representative of this proposal?
Doesn't it say request to table?
Yes, it does. But since we have posted this and we are having a public hearing on it, maybe we should ask, is there anybody in the audience that wishes to address the Planning Commission on the proposal to have a marijuana growing and processing facility at 329 Logan Street.
Michelle, can we put that site plan up?
Is this the right one?
Yes. Mhm. If there is no one in the audience that wishes to address the Planning Commission on this matter, staff, Greg or Jeremy, any comments on it other than the ones you've included in the packet?
No, not other than those. The issues are really with respect to understanding what their proposal is for the site. There's way more pavement than is needed. As you can see, there's 9 parking spaces required, which are all kind of at the east side of the property. And there's a bunch of pavement that is of different sorts, it seems. Some of it's needed for loading along the west side of the building, but not very much of it. There's that whole semicircular area. Essentially what they're doing is they're placing their landscaping into the area of the site that's already unpaved, and I think planning to leave all the rest of the pavement, from as near as I can tell from what's shown on the plan. So that would not be acceptable in my estimation, and they ought to take out what they don't need. We also suggested that the sidewalk be extended across the frontage, at least to their westerly drive opening. It probably doesn't go anywhere past the property, but it's right there at the east property line right now. You know, we need to understand whether there's going to be exterior lighting. This is in an area where there are residential properties nearby. I went through the factors for the zoning exception permit. You saw that I emphasized the need for, in my estimation, for them to explain their odor control protocols as well. For the same reason, it's very well, that would be a good idea in any event, but especially because it is so close to residential use. Grow facilities, oddly enough, are not like dispensaries in that they can abut residential property. And it is quite close by on the south and to the west in this case.
So it probably, in summary, the site plan is lacking a whole bunch of details that we need to know more information about before we can move on this.
Correct.
Okay. And we have a recommendation from staff to table this until that information may become available. Commissioners, any discussion of that?
Chairman, I just have a comment. In reading through this, and I think Mr. Elliott here just did a pretty good job of explaining the situation. I'm typically not one to be dictatorial, but since we are dealing with ordinances and things like that, I'd like to distinguish when we do this write-up, or when staff does the write-up, between should and must. You know, I read through, well, the applicant should do this, the applicant should do that. Well, some of that doesn't sound like it's a should. Some of it sounds like you got to do this to be in compliance. So I think we ought to distinguish when we do the write-up between the must and the should. That's all.
Well, to staff's defense, Gordon, I suspect some of that is that it's made up. I understand what you're saying. Some things are shoulds and some things are musts. Is that your point?
No, well, exactly. I mean, you go through and everything is, well, you know, and I don't remember exactly, and I don't have it in front of me, but you know, well, the sidewalk is an example. You know, extending the sidewalk. My guess is that's probably a should, not a must, but I don't know that. If it's a must, we ought to say it's a must. And any of those things that we are going to require, we should say it now and not wait until we get before the Planning Commission to approve it.
Okay. Very well. Unless there's additional discussion, we would entertain a motion to table case 20-020 until such time as the applicant has addressed a number of these items in their site plan.
Move to table.
Or,
Taylor and Watson. Okay. Voice vote sufficient, gentlemen and ladies?
I
All
believe
those,
so.
all those in favor
Yes.
of the motion to table, please indicate so by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, that is tabled then. Next item on our agenda is case 20021, also a zoning exception permit and site plan application for a marijuana dispensary to be located at 1561 West Maumee Street. Is there someone in the audience to address this? Mr. Barnstable, I presume that maybe that's you.
Hi, how you doing? Thank you very much for seeing us tonight. I believe we have also with me tonight is Troy McLaughlin and also Stacy, who basically handled all of the architecture and really helped us figure a lot of this out. I don't know if you guys want to chime in.
In fact, Mr. Barnstable, if you could have everyone identify themselves and what their role is. Just this would be easier if it was face to face, but because we're like this, if we could do that, it would be helpful.
Yeah, perfectly understandable. My name is Steve Barnstable, and I'm the president of Teebs. Also with this, we have Troy McLaughlin. Troy.
Hi, this is Troy. I'm here and happy to answer any questions I can.
And Troy, what is your role?
I'm a partner in this business.
Okay, very well, thank you. And anybody else?
Stacy.
Hello, I'm Stacy Yatsik. I'm the project manager for this, and I represent the JDI group. And we also have our civil engineer on, Darla Finelli. You want to introduce yourself?
Yes, this is Darla Finelli with the JDI group. I'm the civil engineer on this project.
Well, thank you all very much. Mr. Barnstable, if you'd give us the thumbnail sketch. We have, the commissioners have all seen copies of the site plan and have copies of the site plan. If you'd give us there's actually video of you. There we go. If you would, if you could give us the thumbnail sketch of what it is you're proposing to do. Okay, we need your audio. There we go.
Sorry about that. Yeah, I mean, obviously our end goal is to open up a provisioning center in this particular space. One of the things during the design and, when we actually went through and we tried to figure out exactly what we need, we really did a security centric and a compliance centric approach when we did our design and things like that. So, and we also spoke with our neighbors and things like that and just wanted to make sure that we got everybody's concerns and, taken into consideration. Not sure what sort of detail you want me to go into, or whether I'm the person. Troy, you're probably a little bit more familiar with the details.
Yeah, I'd be happy to answer any questions. Stacy was a project manager, and we also had the architect, so
yeah.
It might be easier to approach as from questions.
Yeah, sorry about that. It's my first ever planning meeting, so.
Okay.
Sorry.
Well, folks, issues that staff has brought up for us. I think maybe the two most pressing ones are, I'm not sure we understand how the traffic is supposed to flow in the parking lot there.
Mr. Chair, if I could comment on that. So they have it needs to flow to the west. It's just that the arrow shows it flowing to the east. As you see, the angle of the parking spaces on the east side of the lot, that dictates the direction of flow there. That's one way going south. So there's no way out except to go west behind the building from there. And so that arrow that's behind the building, instead of pointing east, needs to point west. And then they'll need to provide appropriate signage. Right. For that.
This is Darla Finelli. Can I comment on that? The reason why we have it flowing
Thank you.
from west to east, you might not be able to tell on this plan, but there is actually another drive in the southeast corner. So currently, delivery trucks and trash go behind and exit that way. So if we change this arrow, I think along the east side, you're going to have a much more difficult time with turning radiuses.
You're right. I cannot see your curb cut over there.
Yeah, it doesn't show on, the curb cut doesn't show on the diagram, I guess.
So what it is it's really a rectangular concrete, but you're right, it doesn't show like a curved approach like you would normally anticipate a curb cut.
It looks like it's above where that dumpster was, Greg.
Yeah, well, I see the dump. Yeah, I see it. The dumpster's sitting there.
So right south of that, if I look at an aerial, I can see what looks to be a concrete curb cut.
Yeah. Not sure what I think about that. You know, given the proximity of that boulevard island right there, the only way somebody who's going east can go then is to the right and down that, and go around the bottom of that island, but it's, there's that traffic, that service traffic then is mixing in with the residential traffic from that neighborhood along Stratford. Would still be better in my estimation if it could go west. Is there a design problem with it going west?
What I would suggest, if we're going to go west and possibly you're going to close off that southeast drive there, then on the east side, you almost want to get rid of all those diagonal parking spaces so you have an area to turn. If you're going to have traffic flow opposite than it does, as I understand currently. I just think that would be a really tight turning radius for delivery or dumpsters with the cars parked parallel and diagonal there. It's pretty narrow.
Yeah, it is. I agree. It's going to be, the way the dumpster enclosure is set up, the trash hauler is going to want to back up and then go behind the building there, that direction. What's your thought on, the obstacles to them leaving right now? Do you know what they do? I guess they don't go there because the dumpster's sitting right there on the street, but the residential street right now. But
yeah, that dumpster is gone now, I think.
Is that good?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's been removed.
We do have we have a Google Map overhead view, so I don't know if that would give you a better picture.
What would be the thought to taking the east side and changing those parking spaces so instead of going south, you're going north?
Is there
Would that fix the turning radius issue?
Is there the aerial view is in your plan set?
It's not.
No,
I can share my screen to show it to you, and then Darla can talk from it.
We're trying not to open screen sharing because Zoom bombing issues with that.
Oh.
Had some in the past.
Would she be able to email it to somebody, or?
I did email it to Jeremiah already.
Let me see if I'll forward it to Michelle.
Folks, do I understand that this property is ownership is condominium?
Yes, sir.
And do you, as the developer of this particular unit, have the wherewithal to make the changes we're talking about as just one unit?
Yes, sir, we do.
Okay.
Yeah, we're basically willing to make all the changes. We just want to do it. We want to do it right, and whatever you guys say that we need to do, we're gonna take care of it.
Okay.
Okay, gentlemen, this is Tom. I'm the owner of Jake's Smokehouse. I am one of the owners of the condominium, and I would like to know how Steve Barnstable believes that he has the authority to submit a site plan and make all of these changes without the consent of the other owners.
Well, we didn't make any rules.
Discuss with any of the owners.
Mr. Jake, if you'd hold on a minute, but that is the essence of my question. Yeah.
Troy, I believe that you had actually had some, we've had some conversations with Jake. I'm not sure why this is a big surprise. If Troy's actually showed him.
Yeah, it's being a condominium building, we've had some unique issues in this site plan design. The coronavirus has made it difficult for us to meet. We have met with Tom a couple of times. We've worked with Jeremy and Greg to try to get the best plan that we could do with this property. And from my understanding, we all would have to be in compliance in order to keep moving forward with business.
Yeah,
So
and-
maybe I just.
But it's true usually in a condominium association that the condo board would need to agree to all of this. At least that would be if it was a I don't know if commercial.
Right. But we actually had a meeting with Tom last week. So, and we asked him if there's any issues and things like that. So I'm not sure why this is all just coming up now. I think it's because he doesn't want to give up the parking spaces to park the barbecue truck or something like that. I'm not sure. I don't know. Like I said, we just met last week. Tom, I don't know why this didn't come up when we met in my space last week.
Yeah, we did have a face-to-face last week, and I said I objected to the sign that you had. This is the first that you've shown me that the dumpster is going to be over parked by my restaurant, which it should be. I have never seen any one-way streets or signs for the alleyway. This is, and you still have trees out in front. It's like there is no way in hell that I'm going to plant a tree in front of my existing business.
Well, gentlemen, this is the issue that I raised is it's unclear to me who actually has the authority to act on behalf of this condominium association.
Well, we were just trying to make the site improvements again. We spoke with Tom. I didn't realize there was an issue.
I understand.
We've had a few meetings. This is kind of coming out of nowhere. We've told him we want to work and basically build our businesses together because we're going to bring a lot of traffic in. We're trying to make it better for everybody, not trying to rule anything or anything. We're just trying to do what the city told us to do.
I understand. I understand.
We're trying to do the right thing, and I don't know where this is coming from. But.
Don't misunderstand. I'm not objecting to anything that you're proposing to do per se. Okay. But usually when the planning commission is dealing with a project like this, we're dealing with the property owners or.
Right, but wasn't there, I'm sorry, go ahead.
That's okay. Who have the authority to implement whatever we may suggest or tell them they need to do. And I'm not sure that's the case today.
And yeah, we've obviously not seen the condominium documents. I don't know. I would assume these areas are all general common elements, and as such,
they're
going to need. I mean, it just depends on what the master deed says, but to make the modifications, probably at least a majority of the owners will have owners will have that. All these things are things, no matter who it is that brings the site plan in front of us, these are things that are going to be required to bring the property closer into compliance. It's still not coming into compliance. There's 200% of the allowed parking on this site. Now, we understand it's typically used, so we have not asked for any of it to be removed other than what's necessary to enclose the dumpsters, which should not be sitting out unenclosed, and that's going to be an issue regardless of whether or not the site plan goes forward. They're going to have to find a way to enclose those dumpsters. However, we can't impose changes onto a condominium association to which they don't all agree, or a majority of them at least agree. We may need to sort this out at staff level as opposed to try to figure out here at the meeting what's going on. We may need to see the condominium documents and then get appropriate indication of authority on behalf of the applicant from the association to do the things.
I don't believe there are. Yeah, I don't believe there are any condominium documents.
Hard to have a condominium without documents. Something got recorded at one time.
Okay. Okay.
I would be happy to forward them to you.
Yeah, that would be awesome. Thank you, sir.
the location of the dumpster in the southwest corner, that's really our preference as well. We would prefer to keep it right there, and our intent was to enclose it where it sits, but there are wires, power wires above it, and that's the only reason we, at that point, had to do something different. And moving it forward a little bit it looked like the most feasible.
I suspect that the issue for site plan approval will be that it is in a discrete location and is enclosed, and the exact specifics are probably can be somewhat flexible. Greg, is that?
Yeah, you know, something that works for the trash handler, as I was saying, you know, where they can circulate properly, picking it up and getting out. They're not in the way of customer traffic. Clearly, you don't want to put it underneath the overhead wires. That's always an issue.
Can we go back to the flow of traffic and the diagram that's currently on our screen?
Sure.
So
Darla,
if you look at how it flows currently, and you can even see a car behind there. So I think that southeast approach there is more attuned to be an exit than an entrance. And that is why I had that traffic behind the building west to east, which I think keeps cars from being back there, and it's mostly for delivery and trash. And then, of course, the cars that are parked on the east side that are diagonal, they would go out that way. It's just the natural flow currently of the site.
They get around the south end of that boulevard, Alan, so that they don't need to go south to go north.
Looks like they can.
Yeah, I've done that turn several times. You can get out.
All right.
But a truck may have some problems.
The dumpster that's in there right now is no longer there, so that kind of helps moving around and getting out that exit.
Mm-hmm. Well, as I said, the issues that particular issues that staff had with this was the traffic flow and the dumpster enclosure.
Well, we didn't have an issue with the dumpster enclosure as it's proposed. We had an issue with the unenclosed dumpster.
Yes, I'm sorry. Mm-hmm.
Now, I don't have a huge issue with the traffic flow, understanding that there's, in fact, a curb cut there now, which I didn't see when I was looking at the plan.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I would just, I guess I would just comment for the commission that you would want to be sure that everybody can sort of make a left turn coming out of there as opposed to forcing them back into the residential property.
Mm-hmm.
Turn around.
Yeah, I would suggest that a left turn coming out of that curb cut would be very difficult for a semi. I don't know if anybody has semi deliveries or not, but my guess is the restaurants do. So when you come out of that curb cut, you can go straight, but then you have to turn left. It's a very sharp left. You've got the median strip on Stratford Drive there.
I guess since Tom is on the line from Jake's, Tom, would you be able to comment how your deliveries currently flow through this parking lot?
Well, for one, the dumpster's on the other side, which makes it a little easier for trucks to do the two-way traffic across the back end. And they're pretty nice about that. We do have semi deliveries. Gordon Food Service comes in with a semi, but they do a circular back up to the building. There are a lot of, they also go behind the building and park on the east side of for the China Garden deliveries. But that allows him to go out through the north drive on the west part.
So deliveries currently run in both directions behind the building.
They do, but
Okay.
I mean, one at a time. You couldn't fit two vehicles back there. I can barely plow back there.
Okay.
There's just not enough room. putting the dumpster down there in the corner makes it very tight to make a turn down there for any truck. We get a lot of 30-foot straight trucks and things like that in there. That's why the dumpster is located on the east side of the building and is currently there now.
Oh, okay. It has not been removed.
No, we had a disagreement with Republic as far as when they were going to get their dumpster out of there. So we had to temporarily put it on the west side, but it's since been relocated. It's back on the dumpster pad where it's always been on the east side of the building. That's the existing site.
Okay.
West side is actually unsuitable because of the wires.
Yeah, the east side would be good as well. Jeremy had an issue with the location on that pad. So Jeremy, if you could speak to that.
Well, you don't, I mean, I don't know if he's muted or not, but you don't want it sitting out in the front yard, obviously. That's not where it should be. Your street yards are front yards. Can't be out there. That's a must. That's a shall not be out there.
Or maybe that left-hand corner, we could get rid of one of those parking spots, and then they would be able to make that right-hand turn if we had that being a one-way coming in there. And then basically they would exit out.
You know, I'm inclined to say that these are issues that need some more work, both relative to dumpster location and the traffic flow. I'm not sure that, given where we are with the discussion this evening, that I don't want the planning commission be in the position of moving these things around tonight and then not being, you know, and then leaving either the applicant or the other tenants or us in a position of having made some poor decisions.
Would it be possible to get a conditional approval, because we're kind of running up, you know, some, with everything going on with the COVID and everything, we're kind of running up on some deadlines with the commission. So if you could give us a conditional, then that would allow us to hopefully, you know, reserve our slot on that side.
Well,
again, you know, I'm sorry, what?
Mr. Jacobitz, can you hear me?
Mr. Wright?
Yes, this is Jerry Wright from Adrian College.
I'm sorry.
Yes, Mr. Wright.
So I'm Jerry Wright. I'm Vice President for Business Affairs at Adrian College. Just had a question, and forgive me for maybe not having been in the weeds earlier, but is there a zoning provision requiring consent of adjacent property owners for this type of business?
There is not. We have on occasion given conditional approvals. Usually it's for, you know, relatively minor things like does the water flow satisfy the fire department or something like that.
Well, I'm sorry, don't mean to interrupt you, but I just think these issues could be worked out hopefully pretty quick. You know, we could get together with Jake and the other folks and get this worked out. I just don't think it's a longer term issue. It's not a real structural type of, I mean, I wouldn't think it, obviously, again, my first planning meeting, so I'm not sure.
Staff, your thoughts on this?
I mean, we just been through, you know, a long path.
Yeah. I would say, first of all, we have to understand through looking at the condo documents, who can agree to it. That's number one.
Okay.
And then I'm sure as a design matter, we can work it out, but I'm just here to tell you, staff's going to continue to say that there need to be street trees out front. There's no landscaping on the site whatsoever now. And, you know, I just heard an objection from, I don't know if Jake's a co-owner or not, you know, or whether he rents that space, but from one of the other users in there. And you know, I mean, and I would say that it's sort of it's a myth that street trees block wall signs, because they don't if they're done properly. If they're the right size street tree, people who are in a car your eye level is below the branches of the street trees, and you see all of the business signs underneath the canopies of those trees. You should not be concerned about that, but I heard that concern, and so I don't know if that's going to be an obstacle to agreeing on a design concept for the
Right.
site.
But
I think there are different ways to accomplish, the dumpster enclosure, leaving the dumpster unenclosed where it is, or creating an enclosure where it is aren't great options, aren't really acceptable options. We need to have the flexibility to come up with a location that actually works in terms of what the ordinance would allow.
So if there, the situation is where, where the city is basically saying, that the trees need to be there. We're willing to pay for the trees. We're willing to do everything, but there's a tenant that doesn't want to do it. How does that get resolved?
And Steve, the way that
it gets resolved with reference to who has authority to agree to it under the condominium document.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Okay.
And whether you can resolve that or not wouldn't keep us from, that's not going to get in the way of us approving a site plan.
Okay. Thank you, sir.
But it may get in the way of you following through with the requirements of that site plan.
Right. Well, we just want to get along with everybody, so we're willing to work with Tom and the other folks. Absolutely.
Mr. Jacobitz,
Yes.
Jerry Wright again, just another question, again, just trying to educate myself. Is there a zoning provision that restricts this type of facility from being within a certain distance of a school such as Adrian College?
There is, if I could answer for you, Mr. Chair.
Please do.
There is a 1,000-foot radius, but it applies only to actual academic facilities. So it excludes sports facilities or other accessory uses that aren't part of the educational campus of the school.
Does that answer your question, Jerry?
Yeah, academic facility being defined as
a classroom building.
Mr. Elliott, could I ask where that language came from, where that particular definition came from?
The definition of educational campus?
academic facility.
When the ordinance was most recently amended, we'd had a lack of clarity about this before. There's been a marijuana facility approved for this site previously. And so discussion was had that, well, it wasn't the intent of the ordinance to require such facilities to be 1,000 feet from your baseball field or your softball field, for example. So the Planning Commission, City Commission, when they amended the ordinance, clarified, and I'll read to you the exact language, by saying 1,000 feet of a school, private or public, including preschool through college, then parenthetically, but not including sports facilities or other accessory uses not located on a school's educational campus. So that's the exact language of the ordinance as it reads today.
And for what it's worth, it was this exact, shouldn't say this exact, but it was circumstances like this very one that language was crafted to be able to permit this use in locations like this.
Thank you.
Are there other locations within the city, within the B1, B2 district, this will, that has the same conditions? Within 250 feet of a playground and 1,000 feet of a college?
I don't know.
I believe to the west of this one, there had to be a distinction of a public to private playground, so.
Mm-hmm. Yes, because there's a private playground in that apartment building immediately behind the building we're talking about.
Mr. Jacobitz, if I may, this is Frank Rebar from the college. I realize that the baseball facility under these definitions doesn't fit educational process. However, the college does operate in conjunction with the county and the city, an incubator facility that is literally right behind this particular facility.
Frank, I don't mean to cut you off there, but we've got two processes here. One is looking at the site plan relative to traffic flows and trees and things like that. That's what we're doing right now.
Okay.
At some point, we will also have to consider whether or not we can grant them a zoning exception permit. And that's where the items that you and Jerry are bringing up would come into play.
Okay. Would that be in the context of this committee or
Yes.
just at a different time?
It's on the agenda for this evening.
Okay. So I'm not clear as to, is it inappropriate to raise that question?
At this time it is. We need to do the site plan review first, and then
First,
we'll
we're doing
move
the
on
site
to
plan,
the
which
exception permit.
Yeah, first we're doing the site plan, which deals with the physical aspects of this.
Okay.
And then we'll consider the application for a zoning exception permit, which deals with the kind of things that you and Jerry are talking about.
I see. Thank you.
He can't get the one without the other one first, so we need to do the site plan first. That's why.
They do, you can't really do one without the other, but they're two separate.
Yep. Okay.
So,
Thank you for the clarification.
okay, back to the site plan, folks. I think we need clarification on what the traffic pattern is going to be. We need clarification on where the dumpster is going to be and whether or not and that it is going to be enclosed. Those are I get the impression that at least the petitioners that those are the two questions that aren't clear to me. The other ones seem pretty straightforward. Again, whether or not the condominium members can all agree to them is a different issue, but it's not our issue.
So I'm sorry. So what exactly is the issue with the traffic, and then how do we resolve it? I'm not sure, Stacy. Maybe I don't know. Maybe I'm just not understanding. How do we resolve it?
I guess the issue is our understanding of what the traffic pattern is different than it was when we went into the meetings.
Okay. Oh, sorry.
Okay.
I just didn't know. Yeah.
Yeah. And our understanding of where we can or can't put the dumpster is different than it was when we went into the meeting too.
Jeremy, can you weigh in on the dumpster location and the requirements that you provided to the client?
Yes, I'll have to look into the ordinance, but it needs to be in an enclosed enclosure on a cement pad with gates. Right now, it's not conforming. The one that's over in the right of way definitely isn't. That was apparent when we went to the site. So I believe I sent you guys parts of the ordinance specifically of why that was an issue. That needs to come into conformance. And like Greg said, the street trees as well. Those are something that are, inevitably going to need to be done. And that's whether these guys move in or not, I would say. It's really going to depend on what goes in this business. But the dumpster over where it currently stands can't be there. It blocks sight. It's not on a proper pad. That's not a pad whatsoever. And it's not enclosed per our standards.
Well, there were actually two dumpsters, one on the west, the southwest end, and then on the east side. We were attempting to make those corrections on the east side, but then we found out that that was owned by Hungry Howie's, and it was going to be removed once Hungry Howie's they changed their locations. So once that's been removed, we focused our efforts on bringing the one on the west end into conformance.
Yeah, the one on the east end, as long as that's being removed, is going that goes away at that point.
It should be gone, but I think Tom mentioned that they put it. Did they take the west end dumpster and move it to the east end?
That's what I thought I heard.
That's what I thought I heard too, Greg, and we're not aware of that.
Well, that's where it is. It's where it's always been. It's an existing location. It's an existing approved site plan. You're dealing with existing businesses. It may be non-conforming. It may be a non-conforming structure, but it is also only became non-conforming because the codes have changed since it was put there.
Right, it was existing with the existing owner, which was Hungry Howie's. They are no longer there. They had that dumpster removed because they took it to their new location.
No, all of the trash pickup was shared by all the condominium owners, by all the property owners. Hungry Howie's was the last holdout. We had all agreed to change it. We changed to a different vendor, and Hungry Howie's was using it until they left, and then it was to be removed. And the new one faced the exact same spot.
So
You just opened in January, right?
Excuse me.
I'm sorry, you just don't.
In order to move forward with this, would we be interested in giving conditional site plan approval to this with the understanding that all of the staff suggestions be addressed, the dumpster be enclosed and located to the satisfaction of staff, and that a traffic pattern be determined that also is to the satisfaction of staff? Commissioners?
I would have to ask a question on that, gentlemen. Okay, a marijuana facility is.
No, excuse me, I'm trying to get an answer from the planning commission.
Sorry, I'm sorry.
And I'm not hearing anybody.
Repeat what you said, Mike.
That we would give conditional approval to the site plan with the provision that all of the recommendations of staff be implemented, that the dumpster be located and enclosed some spot that is satisfactory to staff, and that the traffic patterns on the property be clarified that are also satisfactory to the staff.
Well, Mike, what about the other members of the condominium association?
Don, I would suggest that's not our problem.
I'm not sure if I feel that that's completely accurate. How can we give approval, even a conditional approval, to a site plan when we're not sure who has the authority to make changes to that property?
Well, that's up to them to work out, though. I mean, we won't approve. My point being is that we wouldn't approve this site plan without these conditions being met. So if they can't convince the other condominium owners that this is all reasonable to do, then the site plan isn't approved.
Well, go ahead, Nancy.
I guess I didn't hear that as a part of the condition, at least not clearly.
Well, I didn't state it as one because I thought that was just a matter of practicality or of probably of law.
I don't know.
Well,
Is that true? Is that a matter of law?
Well, we need to, with what we've heard tonight, we need to find out that they're acting with authority in presenting the site plan.
Yes.
So
Yes.
I would suggest that does need to be part, if you conditionally approve it, that needs to be part of the staff review.
Again, commissioners, Nancy, what did you?
It sounds to me as though there are just a lot of questions about this whole project, and to go forward with the site plan, even a conditional approval, seems a little sketchy to me.
Okay.
I agree with Commissioner Weatherby.
Gordon, thank you.
I'd also have to agree with Commissioner Weatherby. There's just too many questions, and not knowing who actually gets to make the decisions to force that is troublesome without knowing.
Yeah, I'll find out from my attorneys tomorrow.
Okay.
And I would agree. Yeah, I would agree. I think there's too many issues that are unknown with regards to the whole condominium situations. So if we want to incorporate that in the motion, but I don't know.
Kara, did you want to weigh in on that?
Not at this time. I understand where the rest of the commissioners are coming from there's just a lot of questions that don't have answers. I don't quite see how we can do a conditional approval on it at this time.
Okay.
If I could, we've been, working on this for a while, and it's really just a couple of minor issues that we just need to work out with some of our fellow tenants. Once it gets worked out, it should be a pretty fast process. Again, we just been waiting for a long time, and obviously you guys have been packed and busy and everything. We would just appreciate it. It allows to, at least with a conditional, with the caveat in there, exactly like you said, that we get the agreement of the majority of the tenants. It would just allow us to move forward with other processes. We'd obviously have to meet those conditions. So anyways, I just thank you for your consideration. Appreciate it.
Okay. Chad Johnson, did you have an opinion on this?
I agree that we had to see where the authority lies. It's difficult to undertake a project like this without knowing who's driving the bus, I guess.
Okay. What I hear Commissioner saying, and correct me if I'm wrong, but it sounds to me like this sounds like we may be ready to table this site plan.
I make a motion to table.
Is there support for that motion?
Support.
Okay. Is there any additional discussion? Okay. Jeremy, may we have a roll call vote on that, please?
Love,
Yes.
Weatherby,
Support to table.
Johnson,
Support.
Watson,
Support.
Leonard,
Yes.
Gauss,
Support.
Taylor,
Support.
and Jacobitz.
Yes.
That's unanimous.
Mr. Barnstable, I think I need to tell you that generally, I think commissioners are favorable towards your project, but we just aren't in a position to give approval to the site plan at this time.
Yes, sir. I totally understand, and we'll take care of the open items. Thank you for your consideration.
Now, do we want to, as long as we're here, do we wish to consider the zoning exception permit for this same property at this point?
I think we noticed the hearing, Mr. Chair, and so we ought to hear those who are here to comment.
Okay. Normally, I would ask Mr. Barnstable or someone in his position to give a thumbnail sketch of what they're proposing to do, but I think we've already done that. They're proposing to have a medical marijuana provisioning center, thank you, at this location. Staff has reviewed this. Is there anyone in the audience that wishes to address this particular matter with the Planning Commission? Jerry, where'd you go? I was going to Jerry, where are you there? Okay.
This is Jerry Wright. Mr. Rebar brought up a point that over in that area, we have a academic space that we refer to as a business development incubator facility. And it's managed through our Institute of Entrepreneurial Studies. And in fact, they've done some collaboration in the past with Ann Arbor Spark. And the thing that I'm not entirely certain of, truth be told, was whether this incubator facility is within the 1,000-foot radius of this project. So I don't know if it's incumbent on me to get a measuring tape out to determine that, or what guidance you might give me.
I think if you locate that for us, we could make that determination. It apparently did not show up on GIS. So do you own the property?
We own the property.
Is this also, is this in the plant building?
Pardon me?
That's in the plant service building?
That's correct. It's on the west side of the plant building.
It's within the plant.
It's a dedicated space that was built specifically adjacent to that plant facility building for this purpose.
You know,
Which building is it? It's not the northwest, right?
I'm sorry?
Is it the building in the northwest section of that property?
It's off Stratford Drive, and
It's immediately behind Carter Rehab.
if you had a aerial photo, which I can provide you, but not tonight, I can show you specifically this addendum to the core plant facility, which was built for the purpose of this business incubator.
Michelle, can we get Google Earth or Google Maps up?
Jerry, I guess I would ask the question, is your objection strictly on the basis of a 1,000-foot radius? Or is there some underlying problem with this?
Well, I think one begets the other. So if there's a zoning ordinance that says a 1,000-foot radius applies to academic facilities, and this is within that 1,000-foot radius, then I think the college has an opportunity to consider this further and share their thoughts with the Planning Commission.
Oh, which is, of course, you're welcome to do whether it's 1,000 feet or not. That's
sure. But I gathered from the previous comments that when the reference was made to 1,000-foot radius facility, not including the sports facilities, that was kind of in between the lines message to the college.
The sports facilities obviously take up a lot of, I think the thought behind that was there's a lot of space taken up by that. It's not really fair to measure from, athletic fields.
Yeah,
the concern was the school campus.
Understood. So if you slide, if you go further to the north.
yes, slide up. No.
Yep.
Oh, yes, I'm sorry, you had it right.
There. There you go.
You were doing right.
Okay. Okay. So
Good.
the plant facility is that white roofed building, just north of your cursor, right there. Yep. If you zoom in on that, it'll get blurry, I'm sure. Well, actually,
It's getting sharper.
yeah. So just keep going. Okay. So what you'll see is that that rectangular building is the core plant facility building, and that business development incubator space is that area that butts out to the west from that building.
Okay. Well, we can make a determination about that. Sure, it appeared to be part of the athletic campus.
Understood.
We're looking at.
We also need to make sure that if that one's close, then the one that's going in the old Tangles Hair Salon would probably be really close to that too, which we've already approved for a site plan and a zoning exception permit.
And a building permit, but yeah, I mean, it would be somewhat farther away.
It looks like 1,100 feet to the other one.
How far, Jeremy?
Looks like 1,100. This other one is potentially between 850 to 900. So the Tangles one is 1,100. This is about 850 to 900. That's very rough, by the way.
I have to say, with all due respect to the gentleman from the college, that if someone wanted to make an objection and all they had to do was throw a faculty member's office in the back corner of the plant building to make it stick, I find that a little sticky.
Well, let me respond to that, Mr. Jacobitz.
Yeah, it's just not fair.
I can probably provide you, if you're looking for evidence that was an academic space when that building was erected 5 years or so ago, if you're looking for evidence of that versus us trying to do a roadblock by making that space into
No, Jerry, I'm not suggesting that you've changed the use of the building to make the roadblock.
That's That's what it sounded to me.
No, I was using that as an example, though, to suggest that this isn't that strenuous of an academic use, not to diminish the strenuousness of the academic program, but that this is, yeah,
It's
I'm
not a
having a hard
classroom,
time here.
right? It's not a classroom, right?
It's not a classroom.
It's a space that has faculty representation in it to educate students on in entrepreneurial studies on developing small incubator businesses. It's
But
a
no
business
students are,
course
but,
room.
but no students are classrooms, right?
There are tables in there. There are desktop computers in there. I can give a tour to anyone who would like to walk through that facility.
I think the determination we'll have to make, if I could interject, Mr. Chair, is, one, what is the actual distance? But then number two, the question is it in other accessory use not located on the school's educational campus? In other words, whether or not this is used for educational purposes, is it on the school's educational campus as opposed to some other part of the school property, which is not generally the educational campus? No, that term is not defined in the ordinance.
I would
That's
suggest
what we're going to
that
have to decide.
any boundary where we own properties and educate students is part of our educational campus.
I hear your proposed definition.
Yep, we hear that.
We can-
Clearly, when the city drafted this, though, their intent was to be able to develop properties in this general area for this use.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes, Mr. Taylor.
did we not approve this facility with planning commission, as I recall?
There was a prior facility approved in this strip mall. I'm not sure it was this exact
no.
space.
Yes, it was this
Greg,
space, sir. It was this
I'm
space.
talking
sir.
about the facility that Mr. Wright is talking about right now. What, did that not come before the planning commission?
I'm sure it did for a site plan, yes. It's some
And
time.
as I recall, it was for their plant department. Is that correct?
Don,
Well, I believe.
I know that what Jerry is telling us about this facility has been there since they built the building, or shortly thereafter.
I'm sorry, Mike, what'd you say?
I know that the use that Jerry has been describing, Mr. Wright has been describing, has been established in this building for quite some time,
All right,
if not when it was originally built.
Originally built.
Okay,
We can sit here all night and try to pick this apart,
Mm-hmm.
but we need to have some the planning commission or the city commission needs to come up with some clarification of what is considered an academic building. I mean, I don't know if Adrian College offers this, but if they offered, coaching, well, then that would make the baseball field an academic building if they did the class in there.
Mhm.
I think we need to have some research done and some definition brought up before we move forward with anything, because it's very subjective.
Do we need the city attorney's opinion on this? Is that helpful or not necessarily? Or is it, on the other hand, we can read the plain and simple language here, and it's not all that plain and simple.
I think the interpretation of the ordinance goes to the zoning administrator. If there's a challenge to his interpretation of the ordinance, that's appealable to the zoning board of appeals.
True. Okay.
I would not suggest that he sit here tonight and.
No, give an opinion. Okay.
We've heard the comment, we can take it under advisement and make a determination about whether or not the spacing, it may well be that the spacing requirement isn't even an issue. First, we have to determine whether or
Yes.
not the clearly objective measure of is it within 1,000 feet of the use is at issue. And if it is at issue, then we need to determine, is this an accessory use that's not on the school's educational campus? That's a determination of the zoning administrator first. If an aggrieved party doesn't like that, they can certainly appeal that to the zoning board of appeals.
Mm-hmm. Okay. In which case, once again, I hate, I'd love getting stuff off from our agenda, but we're not doing too well at it tonight. I would suggest that the zoning exception permit for this also be tabled until that we can get an opinion from the zoning administrator as to clarification on the ordinance.
Are we also gonna measure do a measurement so we know for sure?
Both issues, Don. A measurement, which again may render the other question moot.
I move to table until we can determine a measurement and also clarification of what is an academic building.
Okay, we have a motion by Commissioner Watson, support from Commissioner Taylor to table this issue as well. Jeremy, a roll call vote if you don't mind.
Can we make comment?
I'm sorry?
Shouldn't we be making comments now?
Are there any commissioner comments?
Yes, Mr. Chairman.
I'm sorry.
No, that's all right. Very easy. I would like to accept the invitation to tour the facility whenever it's most convenient for the college staff. You can call me. My number and email are on the city website, and feel free to give me a call.
Commissioners, any additional discussion to the motion to table this, which actually I think probably isn't open to discussion or debate, but that's neither here nor there. Okay, Jeremy, if there is no additional discussion, Jeremy, have roll call vote, please, for the motion to table.
Gauss,
Yes.
Taylor,
Yes.
Kovitz,
Yes.
Love,
Yes.
Weatherby,
Support.
Johnson,
Support.
Watson,
Or
Leonard.
Yes.
Motion passed unanimously.
Thank you. Greg or Jeremy, I presume we'll hear back from you in that regard when we've made a determination.
That you will.
Okay.
I'd like to know as soon as we find out, not till next meeting.
Yeah.
Right.
Okay, thank you very much for your time.
Yeah, let's move this along, right?
Yes. Next
Thank you,
item on our
sir.
agenda. Case 20023, a site plan review for an accessory building at 235 Pearl Street. Is there someone in the audience to address? Is there a representative of the party here?
Yes, I am.
And sir, if you could identify yourself, please.
My name's David Newland, Newland.
And Mr. Newland, what is your association with this project?
I'm the builder and a family friend.
I'm sorry?
I'm the builder and a family friend.
Okay, thank you. Very briefly, tell us what it is you're proposing to do.
You say what?
Very briefly, if you'd tell us what it is you're proposing to do.
Well, an accessory storage building for the Grasshopper Restaurant. Obviously, space is tight inside the restaurant. If you've ever been downstairs where they store everything now, they're running out of room. He owns a property across the street. He's got it fenced in. He's done as much as he can. He wants to start storing some product over there. You know, whatever restaurant store, napkins, container straws, tortilla chips, you know, beans, whatever. Hence the reason it's going to be heated and insulated.
Commissioners, questions? And
I have to agree with the staff. I question why there's water and sanitary sewer being run to the building. And the placement of the building in the back far corner away from, I don't know. It just doesn't seem like it's like he has another purpose maybe for it later on.
yeah, if it's storage, why does it have a bathroom in it?
Well, semi drivers show up, deliver product. The restaurant is across the property, across the street, and then all the way over the restaurant. If somebody has to use the facilities while they're unloading the truck or the truck driver themselves, they're there. When you're taking inventory, You don't have to walk all the way across the street. It just seemed like a good idea while we was in the process of building this to plan for bathroom breaks. I mean, truck
Okay.
drivers need to use the bathroom too once in a while. You know?
Yes. Is there, we didn't see any exterior lighting on the plan. Is there exterior lighting on this?
You know, and it was going to kind of leave that up to you on what you guys were going to require. We didn't want to light it up like it was daytime, because on the back side of that, across the property line, there are rental houses. So I wasn't sure how much lighting you would want us to do. I mean, we can light the parking lot up like a college parking lot, but I don't think that it'd be good for the neighbors, you know.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, obviously, we're going to have a light at the pass door.
Okay.
We probably put a light over the garage door that was on a switch.
Mm-hmm. Greg, what were the other issues that that staff thought needed to be addressed here? The access.
Well, so right now the situation is, besides the strip there on the west where the two trees are, it's all gravel. The whole
Correct.
lot is gravel.
Correct.
So gravel isn't an approved surface for a commercial use. So our suggestion is that there ought to be pavement for that much of it that's needed to access the building, and the rest of it should be restored to the green space if it's not needed for accessing the building.
No, and we don't have a problem with that either.
Okay. There's public sidewalk. We discussed exterior lighting. Planning commissioners.
The vinyl siding.
Go ahead, Brian.
It also says that the whether the vinyl siding is appropriate for the building.
Right.
You know, I'm thinking that given its location, it's not on Maumee or Main Street or Winter Street. That's one man's opinion. That it's a storage facility on a back lot on a side street.
I would have to agree with that. It's not on the main drag.
Or any main drag.
Well,
It's a
but
glorified shed.
Yeah.
we do have some specific language though in the B3 district about finishes and materials. And so I don't have that in front of me, so I don't know how this fits. I mean, I'm sure that this will be a nice project.
There's a portion of the B3 district that has a form-based overlay on it that has design requirements. This lot is not in the form-based overlay though.
Yeah, so that only applies to buildings facing the main streets. Don?
Oh, so you're saying that, okay, all right.
Is there anyone else in the audience that wishes to address the Planning Commission on this particular matter? Commissioners, any additional discussion? I would suggest that if the mayor is willing to comply with the specifications that staff have provided, that we would be okay to approve this site plan with those stipulations.
Move to approve with the stipulations being met.
With a motion, is there support?
Support.
From Commissioner Weatherby. Okay, Watson.
Yeah, got it. Can I ask a couple questions real quick?
Who's speaking? I'm sorry.
Hey, can I ask a couple questions real quick?
Mm-hmm. Yes.
The vinyl siding's okay then?
Yes. Yes.
Okay. Was there any specific color that you guys would require? Or, I mean, it's not going to be pink or purple or, lime green. I mean,
something discreet.
Something discreet. Okay. And then the paving, did you have any requirements on parking? Given the fact we're unloading trucks and whatnot there, do we need a handicap spot or do we just need a spot for the truck to back up the overhead door? A couple parking spots for if they drive from the restaurant over in the middle of winter. Is that sufficient?
Mr.
I think if you go with parking, one of them will have to be barrier-free van accessible. B3 is parking exempt, but if you choose to provide it, then one of them will need to be barrier free. What you need to provide is pavement for the loading, unloading operation. The parking optional.
Okay.
Parking space is optional.
Right. Okay.
Okay, and either Mr. Elliott or Mr. Clement can help you out with the details on that.
Okay.
Okay. We have a motion in support for approval of the site plan with the stipulations that the paving and that there be some exterior but yet minimal lighting, again, to be determined by staff. Any additional discussion? Jeremy, a vote if we may.
Johnson? Commissioner Johnson?
Chad, are you there? Or there we go. Okay.
Just couldn't get unmuted. Space bar wasn't working.
Commissioner Watson?
Approved.
Leonard?
Yes.
Gauss?
Yes.
Taylor?
Yes.
Jacobitz?
Yes.
Love?
Yes.
Weatherby?
Support.
Motion is passed unanimously.
Okay. Thank you, sir. We appreciate it.
Thank you very much.
Next item on our agenda is case 20022. This is a proposal for a Consumers Energy substation for a zoning exception and site plan review with a hearing to be set for, I would suggest, our regularly scheduled July meeting, which would be July 7th. And would entertain a motion to that effect. Watson, and support from Commissioner Weatherby. Any discussion? All those in favor of setting that public hearing for our July 7th meeting, please indicate so by saying aye.
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 Any opposed? Okay, very well. Next item on our agenda is a presentation from Jim Bunshu for 1222 West Maumee Street. If I understand correctly, I think everyone has gotten the materials that Mr. Bunshu provided. He is just in a real quick thumbnail. He is proposing to use the former Lenawee Tire building for a artist sculpture studio and gallery. And the sticking point here is that he also proposes to have his own residence apartment in the building, which is not something that's normally permitted in the industrial. He is here before us today to kind of gauge our opinion as to the viability of doing a PUD, a planned unit development for this property. And with that said, I would turn it over to Mr. Bunshu and ask him to keep his comments brief because we've had a really long meeting so far. So,
Mr. Chair, could I ask Michelle to bring up the rendering of that property if she has it in the packet there too?
And Mr. Chair?
Yes, sir.
Can we please clarify this is not West Maumee, it's East Maumee Street?
Yes, it is.
I'll send them to you right now.
1222 East Maumee Street. Like I said, it's the corner of East
Correct.
Maumee Street and Dean or Gulf. I'm not sure which, but
Both.
Gulf. Okay. Thank you.
It's at the corner of Maumee and Gulf.
Okay.
Go ahead.
Jim, please go ahead.
Okay. Thanks everybody for seeing me today in front of the Planning Commission. Mike had that correct. I want to propose to turn the Lenawee Tire building into a sculpture studio for my business, a gallery, contemporary art gallery, and a residence for my children and I. I did do some preliminary conversations with Mr. Miller, Jeremy, and a little bit with Mr. Elliott. And what I was told is that it's possible that it would fit under a planned unit development. It's currently zoned light industrial. I'm looking to get your approval to do that. The way that I have it laid out on the paperwork that I showed to you, I would turn the office space in the back into a 3-bedroom apartment. I've done some research into the environmental concerns, and my understanding is that in 2000, all the underground storage tanks were removed from the property. I provided y'all with the reports of that. I've talked with Michigan Eagle representatives a little bit, and they've told me that the covenant restriction that's on the property currently would not impose or be a problem for the site to be used as residential as well. I've reached out and talked to 2 different environmental consulting firms to give me proposals that I provided to you guys of what they would do for me in order to do a phase 1, phase 2 if needed, a BEA, and a due care plan for the future to mitigate any problems that may or may not still exist. They did say that there is a possibility that there could be no vapors coming up through the floor, VOC vapors from anything that may or may not be underground there still. In looking through all the city ordinances and whatnot, a PUD, it could fit under that. I also was wondering why, or if it's possible, maybe it could fit under a zoning exception under, I think that's Article 20, Section 23, or an adaptive use structure. It seems like it would almost fit under either one of those. So you guys would have a few options as opposed to just a PUD, would be my thoughts on it. I think everybody already got the packet that I sent you, so I won't go over that. Really, I'd like to convert that building like it showed in the pictures. I think it would be an upgrade to the corner. I think it'd be an upgrade to the east side of Adrian. It borders up to a residential property. I've spoke to the neighbor right next door to the west of there, and he likes the idea. I really think it would brighten the east side of Adrian. I really do. So I'm asking for your guys' help in that. I am in negotiations with the selling agent for purchasing the place, but I want to keep that on hold because if it's not approved for the city to make it into what I have here as a vision, then I won't go forward with it. So I don't want to buy the place right now and then find out you're not going to approve it. So willing to do what it takes to bring it to where you guys want it to be for the city of Adrian. And again, I think it'd be a positive for the city. I really do. So I think that's about it right now. I want to know the steps that I need to do to move it along as quick as possible.
Thank you, Jim.
Thanks.
We'll open it up to any questions that commissioners may have of Mr. Bundschuh in just a second here. The best we could do tonight, and I address this to both to Jim and to the commissioners, is to give him a kind of a sense of our feelings on this. If we are interested in him moving forward with a project like this at this location, we would have to say to him, yes, we would entertain a planned unit development proposal. And that's about the best we could do this evening. Until we have a specific proposal before us, we're not in a position to, offer official authorization. And given where he is, where he hasn't purchased the property yet, would have to put a lot of effort into it to even make the proposal. I think it's reasonable that he ask for at least our inclinations on such a proposal. Greg, do you have anything to add to that?
Can I just ask a question first?
Oh,
so, I think this project is great. I think it would be amazing. It'd be fun. But my question is, and this goes to you, Greg, and you, Mike, an adaptive reuse or a PUD, the PUD is going to be really in-depth and going to cost a lot of money for him to get set up. But, and that's up to him. I understand that. But adaptive reuse, as we've done with some other, this is kind of a unique building. It's in really good shape still. What are our options there, Greg?
I think, we're open to whatever works for him. Before he started spending money, I wanted him to get before you and propose the concept, make sure there was support for it before he went down that road. You're right. If it was an option, adaptive reuse would be a simpler process. I think what what the obstacle will be there is that the residential is on the first floor. And I think it references a requirement, if I'm not mistaken, and Jeremy can correct me if I'm wrong, that residential has to be on the second floor or above. And so his proposal is to have residential on the first floor. And given that I think the only path forward currently would be to do a PUD, but
And we also have,
we'll help him with whatever process can work for what he's proposing.
we also have a provision for a mini PUD, which is much less onerous than the full-blown one. Am I correct?
Well, that's good to know. I didn't know that.
Yeah, that this one probably is much more appropriate for that, that it doesn't require quite as much documentation and is a quicker process too. It's still a fair amount of work to get it approved, but it's not the full-blown planned unit development.
Mr. Chair?
Yes, Mr. Taylor.
So I don't think we could find a better person to do this, knowing Jim for a while through Artelicious, but what a great concept and what a statement this would make for the east side. And I'm sure he's going to do a first-class job on this. I just hope we can work with him and find something that's reasonable and affordable before he goes ahead and buys the building. But having a gallery at that end of town, having his shop there would really be a plus. So I'm in favor. Let's move ahead and see what we can do.
Commissioners, other thoughts?
I agree with both Brian and Don. It sounds like a fabulous project. As most people know, I've been a strong proponent of development on the east side, and this just is a wonderful kind of thing to put in place out there, and on a corner that has been largely neglected in the past. So yeah, I'm strongly in favor of this.
Commissioner, any other commissioner comments? Jim, I think you could be somewhat, I'm not hearing from everyone, but I'm also not hearing any objections either. I think you probably could be assured of Planning Commission support if we were to see a plan unit development proposal for this property, and would encourage you to work with Greg and Jeremy in putting that together. Does that give you
Will do.
what you're looking for the time being?
Yep, as long as, someone will guide me through what the next steps are. I mean, I'm a retired cop, not a planning guy, so.
Like I said, I'm certain that there is a section of the ordinance that addresses small site PUDs, and it is a much, like I said, less onerous process than the full-blown one. It's still, going to require some diagrams and some pros and stuff like that, I suspect. But Greg, have I stated this correctly, you think?
Yeah, well, I would just say generally, we'll find him the best option in the ordinance that's available for him, and
okay.
We just wanted to make sure that you were comfortable with the concept before he started down that path.
And commissioners, I presume that we all are, or I would have heard from someone objecting. Is that true?
It's true.
Okay. Okay.
I just want to point out, we did lower the PUD fees in June, I think, so it goes by acreage.
Oh.
And generally, a PUD has to be 5 acres or larger, and since he'll be smaller than that, his fee will be tremendously lower.
Okay.
So, and there is an area for smaller ones, so we can help guide him through that.
Okay, very well. Jim, best of luck with that. Good luck.
Okay, thank you. Thank you very much.
Yep. That completes the agenda for this evening. Is there any other business that needs to come before us this evening? Hearing none, folks, we are adjourned. Thank you all very much for your time. We'll see you later on.
Thank
Night,
you.
everybody.
Good night.
Good night.
Bye.